Hello. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to another live. Um, I'm so glad to be on here. It's been a little bit since I've gotten on, so I wanted to get on and give y'all an update of a little activity that I did to help cope with some things. Lately I have been uh going how do I describe it? It's like a cocoon situation. So transform, doing the necessary things that I need to do to heal. Um and I'm excited to talk about what I need to talk about. So let me make sure I'm live. Um, okay. So tonight I'm going to walk you through something that I did at the library yesterday. And it is called a forgiveness landscape. And this is an exciting live. And it doesn't sound so bad as the title, but I really want to walk you all through something that I did that was groundbreaking yesterday. So, if you do not know me, I am Kristen Nicole Mann. I have a YouTube channel and I talk about God, life, mental health lately a lot. Um, because currently, I'll explain why I talk about mental health because it's like I ran into a brick wall. You know how you're running so fast through life and you're just trying to accomplish things, you're just trying to be what you call better. And I was trying to be better. And I ended up running into a brick wall and realizing that I hadn't really been dealing with stuff. And so tonight's live is about a forgiveness landscape that I did at the library. And I stumbled upon it because I was reading a magazine that I usually read. It's called Psychology Today. And they had an article on bitterness and resentment. And you read things and you're kind of like, that ain't me. But I was reading the article, and the therapist was talking about how we can have bitterness and resentment like deep within our heart, like deep within the crevices of our heart, to where if you don't like do something about it, it's going to grow, 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 grow. So as I'm reading through the article, they talk about this forgiveness landscape. And I'm like, okay, what is this? And it's basically an activity that they was given the readers to do to find out where they're at, like check the temperature of if you have bitterness and resentment hiding in your heart. And it really said, like, if you do, it affects your whole life. In general, you might think that you are okay or you've gotten over certain things, but when I was reading it, it was saying rate different situations in your life from 1 to 10, and most of the questions I was doing, like, I was rating it like 2, 1, and I was like, oh my god, I think I have bitterness and resentment. So that was the first step, is acknowledging that you have bitterness, or acknowledging that you have resentment, which is really the same thing. Let me pull up the definition of resentment, because it is the same thing as bitterness, but um, resentment is bitter indignation. I can't even read tonight. Indignation at having been treated unfairly. So when you think about these things, that you went through and the people that you went through them with, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be like, I was treated unfairly. And so that's what I realized. Like, I had a lot of things that I went through that I really didn't deal with, and it ended up making me have this bitterness and this unforgiveness that I had stored deep, 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 deep within. And when I, look at the activity right now, I'm still kind of like, how did I go in detail about these things that I never even really acknowledged the things that I wrote out yesterday in the library. I was in the library for like 2 hours doing this activity. Now, I do encourage, if it is a severe case and you feel like you need to talk to someone, definitely go talk to a therapist. But you can kickstart your process with this activity. So, what I was writing with every situation, like, look at how many, this is all my stuff that I wrote. I was writing so much. I was writing a lot. But first thing, before I start that, I want to go over like what you could be dealing with after you get on the other side. So it could be a post-traumatic version of yourself. So this is after the trauma. And then what I have been doing is reclaiming the little girl inside of me. And so when we have our childhood and it's disrupted by a traumatic, or I would say traumas with an S, you kind of lose who you were as a child. And when you lose yourself and who you were as a child, you can grow up as a lost adult. And so right now I'm really just reclaiming the little girl that I lost, because who told us that we had to lose that? And there's always been like a disconnect in certain instances when it came to my childhood and then who I am now. And so it's always important to get back to that little girl or boy inside of you and reconnect. And then I've been discovering the new side of me. And so you discover a new side of yourself after the traumas happen, because you it's like you're reintroducing yourself. You don't know everything about you. And I think society, they don't really say that you're going to grow into this new person. They really kind of set you up to think that you're going to do the same thing over and over. You're going to be the same way over and over again. No matter what you go through, you're going to be the same person. That's kind of what society makes it seem like. It's not always verbally saying that, but it makes you feel like that. So and then what I've been practicing is making the people no longer the center of my healing. Like, I've disposed the actual people that have possibly hurt me, or whatever I felt about them. I've released them, and I really just learned from the situation, because that's powerful in itself when you release the people, and you just like put yourself in a position to learn from the actual situation. You're no longer holding hostage to this fake facade of, if this person's going to apologize, is this person, are we ever going to rekindle our relationships? You are okay with letting that go. And so when you hold on to things for too long, this is what I wrote. When you hold on to things for too long, it becomes a part of you. Letting it go can feel like a death. And that is what you feel like when you're going through the healing process. Some of the stuff you don't want to let go and you want to hold on to it. And sometimes, I'm not going to lie, I wanted to hold on to the victim mentality, the victim mode of what you're supposed to, everybody's supposed to bow down to me, or I deserve this apology, or I deserve people to notice. And that's all a lie. So basically, yesterday I had the break that I didn't know my heart would need. And so let's get started with, because I'm not going to be on here long, but okay. So forgiveness landscape. So you want to name the people that you need to forgive, and you want to also name the situation that went along with the people. And so the first sentence, I'm not reading what I wrote because it was deep. It was really deep. But the sentence that I wrote before every part was, I release the bitterness and resentment I have held blank. You can fill in. And then I would write who I was holding bitterness and resentment towards. And then I would write what I was holding it for, and where it was, and how it took place. And when I started writing why I was bitter or I had resentment, they said in the article, you would be surprised at how much comes out. And when I say stuff came out of my heart that I had tucked way behind, that I thought nobody would ever see, I mean, it just spilled on the paper. It was like, I was like, I just was in pain because this person, I really thought highly of them, and I thought they were going to do this or that. And I had to let it out, because when you want that from people, you're not going to get it all the time. You have created this like movie or facade of how you think people should show up in your life. And then when they don't, you're disappointed. And so I had to release myself of the disappointment that of what I made up for them to do or be in my life. And when I say that was freeing, this was a freeing. I was so free when I walked out of that library. I was like, I never even said this stuff out loud. I went from when I was a teenager to certain romantic relationships to friendships to, and maybe I can find something that I can read that, I guess I'll go in the I wrote in this specific section that I forgive them because I am now aware that they could not give me what I expected from them. Do you know how much peace you can have when you're like, I'm okay. And I admit that I set high expectations for people and they didn't show up to that. You have to be okay with that. Like, you have to get rid of the lie. It's not their fault. It's actually, I took accountability because I was like, why am I expecting these people to show up? Why have I been holding grudges? Why have I been like thinking they were supposed to be like this or that? You have to admit, and this is some soul work that people do not like to do. They like to say the victim. They like to say the victim, and they like to wallow in the stresses of, I'm gonna get my apology, or my family's gonna notice me, or that ex that did that to me, they're gonna regret that they did that to me. That is not a way to live. Like, you expecting this, you're just gonna be running through life and not even paying attention to what's going on. And so the groundbreaking, the most groundbreaking part of this activity is the last thing that I did was I released the bitterness and the resentment that I held against myself. That was a big one. And I didn't know that was going to be like 2 pages, but they said in the article, make sure that you forgive yourself. That was a big one because I was able to write in depth about the expectations I put on myself. Like, like, I need to show up like this because people expect this, and nobody even has talked to you. Like, nobody said you need to show up like anything, but you put this false expectation on yourself to show up strong or show up I can't show up, emotional, like I'm sad one day. I can't show up real. I have to show up like they expect me to show up. And I know a lot of people, women, especially Black women, we have that superwoman syndrome where we think we need to show up like, strong in every situation. That's not what the word says. When I read the word, it says we're supposed to be weak, and God's supposed to be strong. So with this clashing, it's only been because I've been showing up the opposite of what I needed to show up as. Weakness does not mean that you should walk around with shame. That's not what that means. Weakness does not equal shame. Weakness does not equal you're unworthy. Weakness does not equal any of these things. When you are weak, it's like you're admitting that you cannot save everyone. You can't even sometimes save yourself. Most of the time, you can't save yourself. And so when I wrote out that I forgive myself and, I release the bitterness and resentment of certain situations, decisions, you name it, it was a relief, like instantly, immediately. I didn't even I can't even describe to you how I felt walking out of that library. And so I also wrote out some things about, like, in depth about what I was lacking at the time of these situations. Um asking God to forgive me for trying to be the God in my life. Uh, and I also wrote in some of these situations that I'm okay if we're not as close as I thought I should have been with certain people. I wrote that out too. Because we can get so stuck and caught up on how we think things are supposed to be. We can get stuck there. And so we can stay stuck for years. Like, I just want this person to, be my friend. I just want this person to notice me. I just want, them to acknowledge what they did. And when you put those false expectations on a situation, you're stuck. You could be stuck there for like 5, 10, 15 years and not even know that you're not actually dealing with the situation. You're not actually moving anywhere. And your life is actually on hold because you're expecting so much from others. But what can you give yourself? Like, do you love yourself? I know self-love is a big movement right now, but I'm saying, like, do you love yourself enough to forgive yourself? Do you love yourself enough to forgive those people and move on? There's so much more life. There's so much more life that if you are waking up every single day, it's like God is giving you another chance. God is giving you another chance. And so forgiveness landscape. So let's break this down. You're writing the names of the people and then possibly places and things that you need to forgive. And then when you're writing all of them, you start with the sentence, I release the bitterness and resentment I have held against. Go from there. I had about 6 things at the time that I wrote out releasing the bitterness and resentment. I could not believe that I had all this still tucked in. I mean, these were like the way that situations were coming up. I was like, no wonder some days it feels heavy for me to get out of bed. And I could acknowledge that was freeing in itself, that I could acknowledge these things were actually starting to take over. And I really needed to turn around and look at them and face the fear. It's like facing Goliath. And like I said, it's not a popular thing. People don't want to admit that anything is wrong with them. I didn't want to admit that I still had this stuff in my heart. But when you get it, like an article like I did, I just read through it and I was like, I need to do this activity because I still got some stuff. I still got some stuff in me, and I know I'm not done yet. And that's the beauty of healing. Like, you're not going to be done in one, even after this activity, it's going to move me to the next. But that's what you want. You want movement. You don't want to be stuck in a place for years and years and years and years. You don't want to be stuck in victim mode for years and years and years. You want to move to the next place. It's chess, not checkers. Life is like chess. So this was a major power move that I could have like missed out on if I didn't take the time, because I'm not gonna lie, like yesterday I had this urgency to just get out and go to the library, do whatever came at the library, because sometimes God meets me at the library and I'm like, I wasn't even going to the library to do that, but I got the magazine. Shout out to Psychology Today, and I felt like I had a whole therapy session. I was like, what is going on? And I know that me dealing with my traumas is not forever, but I know that there's more in store for my life. And so if I don't deal with it now, I'm not going to see what's on that other side. And this is going to help me and many others that watch this move on, releasing stuff and not having those suitcases or baggage that goes into new things you want to accomplish, new relationships you want to form. It's not going to spill into it. And so I encourage you to do the forgiveness landscape. And if you want to start with the hardest person to forgive, which is sometimes ourselves, I would start with the hardest person, people, thing that you could forgive, because you're going to be writing. Like I said, I have so many things that I wrote out yesterday that wasn't like planned. So I'm excited to see what yours is, and I'm gonna get off, but y'all have a good night, and I will talk to you soon. Follow my YouTube, Kristen Nicole Mann, and you can watch the replay there. Have a good night. Bye.